So while we're getting situated, I'm going to use every little bit of time I have. I'm LaShanda, Rada. We are here to share with you all some tips on self-presentation, which is my part of the presentation on presence. And then Rada is going to share information about personality, but introducing you to a tool that a lot of people have not heard about but have been around for 30-something years, the Hogan Assessment Tool. How many, just as a survey real quick, how many have taken the Hogan Assessment? Wow, only one. Wow, okay. So I'm going to give her a fair enough time to go over that. So through my 30 years of experience as an image coach, I've found pretty much through research, doing workshops such as this, conferences such as this, that we pretty much are all experts in presence. Okay, we give our definition, society gives a definition of presence as dealing with confidence, charisma, compelling. But at the end of the day, ladies, presence is really about how you make people feel, the energy that you exude, okay? We all have energy. And so we pretty much, if you look at your girlfriend, you've got a BFF, you know what type of energy she has, and it exudes like that even in the workplace. And so we assess people in different settings. You all are assessing me, and it's okay, but it's no longer totally about that whole 100% judgment rule, which is 55% appearance, 38% tonality, 7% the communication. It's no longer about just first impressions. What it's right now about, all the time about, is the impressions that you make ongoing and how consistent. And so that's why presence is so important. I'm going to be looking down at my notes because we've got a little bit of time and I want to make sure you leave here with some valuable things. So just a little bit of my background. I've lived and learned from this presence thing since the age of 11. Started my business at 16, still doing the same thing that I've been doing at 16, but just coming to you all today with more knowledge through research. But at 16, I was part of a mostly male-dominated industry. The image industry back in the early 80s or so was mostly male-oriented. You had women as designers and things of that nature. So very challenging for me at a very early age at 16, a very unnormal situation for the average 16-year-old. So I experienced a lot of intimidation, feeling intimidated because, you know, especially for men, they communicate a little differently and they find themselves communicating among themselves, right? So too, being 16, being looked at as who does she think she is, negotiating contracts, making business decisions, managing a small staff, all of that was also intimidating to them, but it made me feel more intimidated. So I had to overcome that, and the way that I did, I actually started observing them more, and then a lot of women started coming into my life as being mentors, but observing how they communicate with each other. And back in the 80s, they used to have, you know, what we call the social class, and people were really power struck, right? So I had to find how I could fit into that because I was going nowhere. I enjoyed my industry and wanted to be there and still there. So observe how people communicated with each other, how they connected with each other. But one person that played a very big part in my life and still is even at the age of 97 is my grandmother, who was also a woman that operated my father's and grandfather's business, timber business, sawmill business. So again, male dominated. Worked in that office, started at the age of 11, but really started zooming in on it as I got older, really observing her, how she still, even though she was around a lot of men, pretty much if she didn't make things happen, that business wouldn't have operated. But still, again, we know how men communicate, especially back during that time. So she still stood strong, very confident, still stood up for her opinions, stayed within her boundaries, and that's something that we need to consider in the workplace. There are boundaries, but still stood up in her boundaries, but people were always attracted to her, okay? And that's what presence is all about. So she really showed me the power of presence, and I still use it today. Use those techniques and things that I've learned, because as I encounter situations, which I am today trying to speak on this within 10 minutes, is that you have to lean on your presence. It's good to be good at your skill set, continue to work on that and personal develop that and go to your workshops to learn more in your area of expertise, but presence is really the equalizer. It opens doors and it makes connections. So that's what I want to share with you all today, some tips on presence, and I'll call them the 3I, the letter I, the 3I presence model. It's not my model, it's Christy Hedge, Hedge, don't want to take credit for it, but I use this model with my clients. The 3 I's are intention, individual, and inspiration. And so we're going to talk real quick on intention. Now, we as professionals, we already know that we are very intentional. That's how we got our job. That's how we keep our job. But it is deeper than this. Is how you want to demonstrate yourself in the workplace and receive desired reactions from it. Okay? So great intentions create great reactions. So as we use our presence, we want it to propel us in the workplace to create those desired reactions as we go through the day and find ourselves receiving opportunities of motivation, inspiration, and connections. It's the presence that's going to bring us through. But one thing that we have to understand to master this process is that humans are of emotional beings, okay? We make decisions based on our emotions, things that we see and feel, right? So that's how we have to understand that while we're strengthening our presence, that we're also dealing with emotions from those that we are trying to impact. So it's not all about us, our personal presence. Is our presence also impacting others to get what? That desired, say desired, that desired reaction that we want. So there's 3 parts of this intention that I want to bring to your attention today. One is the personal brand intention. That is something that is more forward thinking in order to build the intent of how we want to be perceived. I want to be a leader. I want to be the team leader, okay? Those are things that we build upon so we see small changes. The second type of intention is called situational intention. That is the now, in the moment. In this meeting today, I need to get across my new idea. So I'll call that your pre-game planning. You have to think it through based on the reaction, the desired reaction that you want, but it takes planning. You can't step up in that meeting and stand up and say, I'm going to tell you what my ideas are today. It's no longer that way, right? It's no longer the boss saying this is the way that it's going to be done. You have to plan it out in order to receive that reaction, and that's called situational intention. The last intention that I want to bring to your attention is the body language. Those are in the neuroscience language. That's called micro actions, your facial expressions, your gestures. And there's one psychologist that I read a lot from. His name is Paul Ekman, and he says the face is not a secondary billboard for intentional feelings, but an equal partner in the emotional process. So that means it's more than your words. It's how you stand, what you say, your body language. Now, I don't want you to stress over this. A lot of my clients get stressed out when we talk about body language because there's no perfect, powerful voice, no perfect, powerful handshake, okay? No perfect body stance or posture. What I want to bring you aware of is that your body language must align with your communication language, okay? So that's my point. So just be very conscious about your body language to your words that you speak. The second I is individual. Can you turn that? Thank you. Finding the humanity in others are the connecting points to building relationships. And the point of, it's different things that I want to share with you, but the main thing is that trust. And I heard this talked about on the panel here. We must create trust in the workplace. And I'm going to tell you the one main thing that us as women find it very hard to do, but this is the answer to it all. We must become more vulnerable. Yes, in the workplace. I did say that, more vulnerable, because we want to be so perfect, right? Perfect is going to get you some admiration, but it's not going to make the connection, okay? So we have to find ways. Every one of us in this room right now has a story. We all have a story. We have to find something within our story to reveal to someone that we want to build trust with in the workplace to impact them, okay? So remember, at the beginning, presence is not all about you. It's how you impact others. So this trust thing, women, we have to work on this. We've got to find something to impact others because each and every one of you all know that we're not perfect. We're not made that way, right? So on your worksheet, the build and trust equation, just very quickly, it does not have to be put in this order, but in order to build trust, I want you to see that it takes credibility, reliability. Intimacy means that when you become open with someone, that allows them to be open, and that starts building that trust. But the main part of this equation I want you to know about that will break the deal is what it's divided by, and that's what does it say? Self-orientation. That's your motive. If they see that you're in it all for yourself, of being credible, reliable, and all of that, and someone doesn't really feel that you're really trying to impact them or help them, the whole trust deal is broken. So I want you to understand that equation. This is the way how you can be better at becoming trustworthy and how you can find people that you need to trust, okay? The other part of being trustworthy is to also be empathetic. A lot of leaders don't like this, having empathy in the workplace because they feel like they can be sucked into things. But in today's world, there's a way of being empathetic. And in this order, this is actually the formula. Is you first have to understand, then listen, acknowledge, and then relate. So the trust part, it can go in any kind of series, but in the empathetic, you must understand first and relate last. Okay? So those are the points I wanted there. How many minutes I have? Okay. Okay, great. All right. So I have got 5 minutes. Let me make sure I said everything in the trust part. Awesome. Okay. The last one, the last I in the strength of presence is inspiration. Okay? The first two, the individual and the intention, deals with the inner. It deals with you, your actions based on how you're going to impact, right? This last one is inspirational, where this is where you're creating change, you're creating followers, you're being more of an influencer, you're being more of a change agent, right? And the process of doing that, we have to remember too that as humans, we use less energy. We're talking about energy, presence. We use less energy on things that we're familiar with. When it comes to change, that means we're trying to take people or us out of our comfort zone, right? And so that's using more energy. So as humans, statistically known, we like to use less energy, so we hang on to the comfort, where creating change becomes a little bit harder to do. So I want to share 2 techniques of creating change into people, creating followers and being more of an influencer in the workplace and strengthening your presence. So the first thing is that in order to change anybody, you have to change yourself. So on your worksheet, second sheet, I think, it deals with self-brain optimization. In this order, we'll fill in the blanks. Make room for reflection time. This first part, again, is how you change yourself before you can change others. Make time for reflection time. Plan it out. Second one, focus on solutions and not problems. This is something that we have to realize to change, to reverse a little bit in the workplace. We get in meetings or we get into conversation and we dwell on the problem and we come out with no solution. We've got to reverse it. I understand, yes, we've got to hear it out. We've got to hear the problem in order to come to a solution. But hear the problem and move forward, okay? Again, you're trying to create change within yourself. You can also use that on others. Strike the aha moments. Realize the good things about your behavior. That keeps you going, that keeps you motivated for change, okay? So write down all of your aha moments, your best behaviors. And the next one is just do the daggone thing, okay? Small steps creates mental shifts, right? Just go on out and do it. Want to change and see what happens to allow more creativity and more confidence. And then the last one is find your flow. Sometimes you got to know when you're ready for it, okay? So don't just jump out there. Again, this is processing of changing you. Now, the process of changing others is called the SCARF. This is not my model, something that I use, again, from Christy Hedges. But it's a model that's more rewarding than it is threatening. And it's called the SCARF effect. So the S stands for status. Again, we're keeping in mind getting you to be more of an influencer, getting people to follow you to create change. So status is the first one. Publicly appreciate people, or whatever that process may be. Always acknowledge people. The C is certainty, okay? People are more comfortable when they know what's getting ready to happen next. So as soon as you find out something, communicate that with your team. Sometimes we can control it, sometimes we can't. But at least a little bit of information that we have, share it with others, okay? Immediately once you get it. So certainty. People like to react when they know things are coming up. Autonomy. All of you all know in this room, we want to be in control of ourselves, right? We don't like that micromanaging, if at all possible, okay? So autonomy is showing people that they can be in control of even their own ideas and own way of thinking. And I'm almost done. Thank you. The R is relateness. Within your team, if you're leaders, this is where you find commonalities, because when people find that they have someone in common, it keeps them accountable. It keeps them motivated. So find that how people can relate to each other. And you might relate to others, so that you've got to find out more about your teammate in order to know where you relate. And then F is fairness. And in today's world, in today's workplace, there's a lot of havoc. And when people feel like that they are not treated fairly, it creates issues, right? Some bad issues that we know about. So in order to, it's a way of communicating, being very clear in showing that person that you're being fair. So again, the 3 I's, we have them, right? It's intentional, individual, and inspiration. I'm now going to turn it over to Rada for the next 10 minutes